One of the most common problems that you'll encounter in your digital photographs is color cast. In other words, the colors in your photo are not quite representational of the colors in the original scene, and they are, as a whole, leaning in a certain direction. So there's a color bias to the image. Now, the first step in correcting for a color cast is to gauge what that cast is. In other words, what is the prevailing color that shouldn't be there? And the easiest way to find that color is to locate a neutral image element in the photograph, that is, an object that ought to be white or gray, and then eyedrop it. And let me show you what that looks like. Now, for example, in the case of this image, you might reckon that it has something of an orange or brown color cast, but in fact, it's actually green. And let me show you how you find that out. The first step is to make sure your color panel is up on screen. If it isn't, go to the Window menu and choose the Color command. And then you want to go ahead and select the eyedropper tool. If you're seeing some other tool in this slot, then just go ahead and click and hold on it and choose the eyedropper tool from the flyout menu. You also have a keyboard shortcut of I for eyedropper. Now, if this were a portrait shot captured in a studio, then I would probably have a white balance card or a gray card sitting in the shot. However, this is just a candid snapshot, so I'm going to have to look for something that ought to be, as I say, either white or gray. For example, you might start with the teeth. I'll just go ahead and click on those teeth, and notice when you click and hold, you're going to see this color ring with the old foreground color down at the bottom and the new foreground color at the top. You're also going to see the color identified here inside the color panel, and you can see based on the predominant color inside this field right here that we are looking at a green cast. A more precise way to work is to go ahead and click on the flyout menu icon over here in the upper right corner of the color panel and choose HSB sliders. And that way you can tell what hue you're dealing with, which in my case has a value of 140 degrees. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. But as you can see, we have a very low saturation value, meaning that this is not a very intense color. Another object that we could sample is this brick right here, which is a neutral gray. And notice if I click and hold on it, I'm going to lift a different color. This time we have a hue value of 73 degrees, so quite different than the teeth, and we have a higher saturation value of 11%, which means that we're in a little bit of trouble. The higher the saturation value, the more predominant the color cast. All right, so what does 73 degrees mean? Well, we can see in this hue strip right there, which represents all the visible colors, that it is a little bit green, because we can see green inside that strip. An even better way to work is to check out this color chart. And incidentally, I've made this chart very large. It's about 33 inches wide by 22 inches tall, and it has a resolution of 360 pixels per inch, which means that it's suitable for printing if you're so inclined. And now notice that I've mapped out all the hue values starting at 0 degrees, which is red, all the way around this big continuous wheel, which goes back to 360 degrees, which is also red. So in other words, the colors wrap all the way around. And then if we check out our value of 73 degrees here, you can see that it's someplace between 60 degrees, which is yellow, and 90 degrees, which I'm calling lime. So note that I've set the primary colors of red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and magenta, which are industry standard color names. I've gone ahead and set those primary colors in larger type than the secondary colors of orange, lime, turquoise, and so forth. And then I've also gone ahead and labeled every 15-degree location as well, although obviously these are subjective color names. In any event, we've now managed to identify that the color cast for this image right here falls somewhere in the neighborhood between yellow and full-on green, and you may recall that the value for the teeth was 140 degrees, which is getting into cyan territory. So in any event, that's how you go about identifying the color cast of an image. In the next movie, I'll show you a couple of ways to automatically correct that color cast.